Technical difficulties, mic was turned off.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another reaction video for Broken the Air. I trust my tech community has things working now.
But I don't want it! It's on the plane!
That should give you a hint as to what we're doing today. We are seeing why children on airplanes are a bad idea. Leave your children at home.
My child is the best behaved!
And I have swamplands in Florida to tell you. Overall, kids on planes are a bad idea unless you have no other alternative.
And mind you, this is actually also vouched for by people that have children, like my own sister who has two.
When people who have kids say that it's not a good idea to bring them on planes, it's a good idea to listen to them.
Yeah.
Parents who have kids who are like, my kids are the best behaved and they would never do anything wrong on planes. Yeah, those are the Karens that I have a problem with.
Well, and plus, here's the other thing. Not every child is as well behaved as your children. And plus, sometimes kids are whining about stuff they have no control over. Who here has had their ears hurt when they go up in a plane? Raise his hand. You honestly think a child knows what to do, or is it just going to hurt until it actually pops?
Now, the FAA, the Federal Administration, or Aviation Administration of the U.S., has put out a huge video for kids, explaining with a happy cloud and a friendly clown both, how to fly and what kids can expect, in very, very kid-friendly visuals and language.
Link will be below.
Right, but I can guarantee you 90% of kids won't watch that.
Well, it's not just that, it's 90% of the parents won't even get their kids to watch that.
And it was endorsed by TSA and everything else. I mean, it's our tech dollars at work. We really can't complain too much, but we still will and do, because for those of us who fly economy, now this doesn't affect those of us who fly in business or first class. It doesn't really affect us at all. Because kids, although they're not prohibited to fly in business, it's just culturally bad form.
Well, not just that. Most parents would rather go cheap to spend on the vacation time rather than have their kids sit up in business or first class because they wouldn't fully understand it.
Right, and in defense of those parents, they wouldn't understand it because kids can appreciate a 200 to 300 bottle of champagne. They can't appreciate a fine amenity kit. They can't appreciate the sheer utter luxuriousness they're surrounded by.
They'll play swords with the metal silverware.
Yes. You play swords with metal silverware.
So do you.
Shh.
We do that for fun. We don't do that because we're bored.
Yes, that's true.
And that's the other thing. The boredom level that kids get, especially on long flights. You're in a metal tube with almost nothing to do. What do you expect to have happen?
Now, everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't be mean to kids. They can't control it. This is true. They can't. They're kids. I don't hold against them. However,
You hold it against the parents.
I hold it against the parents. If the kids are that well behaved, then that's a reflection of the parents' skill at parenting. If the kids are not well behaved, then it's also a reflection of the parents' lack of skills at parenting.
Well, and also think about it this way. This is probably the best way to describe an airplane flight with children. Think of the child in a restaurant for an extended period of time.
And if you notice, around your town, wherever you may live, there are plenty of restaurants that have now posted signs saying, no kids allowed, or children must be behaved, or children must adhere to blah 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 rules.
Yeah, and plus, if you want to be the parent that everybody hates, treat the plane and the flight attendants the same way you treat dropping off your kid at a retail establishment to take care of them for 8 hours. Everybody will hate you.
Now, I know I'm going to catch some flack for this video. That's fine. I've had this opinion for years. This is not changing. People are like, well, your attitude will change when you have kids. No, it won't. If anything, my attitude will harden even more against kids and airplanes.
And this will be a horrible description for me, but having your children misbehave on a plane is no different than somebody bringing an animal on the plane and having it misbehave. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to have the dog or cat that runs up and down the aisle. Change that to a little tiny human, and it's no different. Barking dog, yowling, screaming cat. Change that to a little tiny human.
Imagine this, if you will. a small 4-year-old kid, just 4, running up and down the aisles of a wide-body 777 on an 8 to 10 hour flight.
And the parent just sleeping.
Yeah. And you trying to wake the parents up and say your kid needs to be managed, and the parents, you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not fair to anyone, including the parents, including us, the passengers, and the flight attendants, and the crew.
On the flip side, this is for flight attendants and aircraft. Do not use the fact that the parent has a child as an excuse to get rid of them if the child is not doing anything wrong. I bring this up because I believe it happens once or twice in some of the videos, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's a great way to make the headlines on CNN, Fox News, CNBC, whatever else. Thank you.
Anyway.
It's atrocious, really, because good kids should not be penalized. They're few and far between. But if they are decent kids on an airplane, they should be rewarded with a pat on the head in the flight and a very good job, maybe a cookie.
Yeah.
Kids can appreciate this sort of thing. Yeah. Again, kids can appreciate this sort of thing. I mean, it's not nice for anyone to be stuck in a pressurized metal tube going like 300 miles an hour for 8 hours.
And on the flip side, this is just my personal opinion. If a child is kicking your seat, you should be able to do something about it. Even if it's just as much as going, hey, I'm moving. Because if the parent's not going to do anything about it, somebody has to be parental.
And if you're in economy, no one really has an issue with you moving your seat.
If there's empty seats.
Yeah. If it's not a full flight, and if there's availability. But if you are in business and the kid's interfering, then the hammer's going to get dropped.
What I would actually have happening, though this is something that would not be looked fondly upon, move the kid up to some place where their feet can't reach, like the front bulkhead, except for more leg room. And that's taking stuff away.
This is really a conversation that needs to happen, honestly. Because kids on planes is a controversial, hot-button topic, and it shouldn't be. If you are ashamed or embarrassed of taking your kid to a restaurant, then you should be ashamed and embarrassed of taking them to an airport.
Oh, yeah. And shaming is apparently the only thing that works.
Yeah. Now, if you are of the arrogant, presumptuous, self-centered opinion that your kid can do no wrong, that your kid is God's gift to angelic cherubims and kids on earth everywhere, you know what? You deserve every bad thing to happen to you. Maybe you step on Legos 1,000 times and step on banana peels.
Well, me personally, what I'd say is YouTube is a perfect thing. Same with TikTok, same with Instagram, and all that. Have the kids be on video. Have the parents be publicly ashamed of being like, hey, look, this is you. Your kid was a little jerk.
And you are a raging fuck. But yeah. So today we're going to take a look at some ways not to act on a plane. With your kids, anyway.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not fair, especially on a long plane flight, but on any flight in general. When a kid is kicking the back of your seat, when a kid is running up and down the aisle, when a kid is screaming in your face, when a kid is just acting like a raging...
When they break a decibel meter with their screaming.
Yes. Yeah, you could say when they act like a kid, but that's not fair because numerous kids are, well behaved.
What kid seriously acts like they're having a contest with wolves on who can howl the loudest?
American kids?
Not just American, but I would say kids who do not know how to act because their parents haven't taught them correctly.
So, without further ado, and please don't mind the blank screen in the background, we're getting things set up. We're going to start our first video, and please bear in mind that we do not own the rights to these videos. They are all copyright A&E and
Inside Edition is some of them.
Inside Edition and various other copyright claims and trademarks. We know nothing of the sort, but they are for public use on YouTube. So, we're going to take a look at how not to have your kid behave on planes or airports.
Alright, here we go.
It happened again. A family booted off an overbooked flight to make room for other passengers.
What are we supposed to do once we're off this plane?
And get this, a flight attendant actually said their kids would be taken away if they didn't surrender their seats.
So then
Yeah,
it's going to
that's
be a
fine.
federal offense, and then you and your wife will be in jail, and your kids will be.
Okay, that's all right. Okay.
Yeah.
So my kid, wait. So my wife's, we're gonna be in jail, and my kids are gonna be
It's
what?
a federal offense if you don't abide by.
It happened on board a Delta Airlines flight from Hawaii to Los Angeles. Brian Shear and his wife Brittany were returning from vacation with their infant son and daughter when they were told to give up one of the seats. Brian had actually bought a seat for his teenage son. The teenager took an earlier flight. The family used that seat for their 2-year-old. Apparently, that switch gave the airline an excuse to take the seat back and give it to a standby passenger. A flight attendant actually suggested they take their infant son out of his car seat and sit on mom or dad's lap for the duration of the flight.
It's a red eye. He won't sleep unless he's in his car seat. So otherwise he'd be sitting in my wife's lap, crawling all over the place, and it's not safe. So
That's true. Federal authorities strongly urge you to secure your child in a child restraint seat for the duration of your flight. But the flight attendants insisted the seat had to be given up.
There's an option to have you guys all off the flight, or we're going to retrain the whole aircraft.
So we're getting kicked off this plane no matter what now.
It was midnight and the family was stranded.
I got 2 infants and my wife who have nowhere to stay. There's no more flights. What are we supposed to do, sleep in the airport? No.
At this point, you guys are on your own.
Yep, she actually said, "You guys are on your own." Shear finally agreed to leave the plane.
And as we're leaving the plane, there's 4 or 5 passengers there waiting for our seat. The bottom line is they oversold the flight.
It's the latest unsavory incident on board passenger jets since Dr. David Dow was physically dragged off an overbooked flight. Now a family is threatened with their kids being taken away if they didn't give up their seats.
You and your wife will be in jail, and your kids will be.
Okay, that's all right. Okay.
In a statement, Delta apologized, saying, quote, "We are sorry for what this family experienced. Our team has reached out, and we will be talking with them to better understand what happened and come to a resolution."
So, what we see here was an error on both parties. The family committed a minor error. Yes.
What did the family do wrong? Seriously, I have a legitimate question. What did they do wrong?
The family talked back and interfered with the flight attendant. They could have occurred a minor offense, but by talking back to the flight attendant, they were kicked off the flight entirely.
It looked like he was just asking legitimate questions. And
That can very easily get you kicked off, especially
so,
American flights.
talking to a flight attendants now is like talking to cops.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, I'm on the family's defense on this one. This is definitely not a child, not any part of the child. The child didn't start screaming until they had to deal with all the bull.
Mm-hmm.
This was completely Delta's fault because they switched it over to their 2-year-old. They still paid for the seat. It just didn't happen to be their teenager who took an earlier flight.
Right.
So that means they still own the seat. They still paid for the seat.
Actually, while they did pay for the seat, it is technically, I'm not saying it's fair by any means, don't get me wrong, it is technically Delta's purview to reclaim that seat.
But Delta also was going against FAA regulations,
Yes.
where the child had to be buckled in the seat. That should be a full stop right there.
It should be, but again, and you're moving the goalposts here.
I haven't moved the goalposts. Delta moved the goalposts.
No, in this argument, you're moving the goalposts. But so
Everybody should have a seat, even the 2-year-old in the car seat. They said that for a good flight, the child needed to be in his car seat so he could sleep. They specified that. They were trying to make sure everybody had a comfortable flight. I mean, is that not what happened? They were trying to make sure everybody had a happy, comfortable flight because this was, I believe, Hawaii to San Fran.
yeah, on Delta. But it's also typical and a common practice for airlines to oversell their flights.
Right. But this is a family who were trying to do stuff. They had already paid for the ticket. So that's the thing. The flight attendant just didn't want to be wrong. That's basically what it was.
In a sense, yeah. And again, I'm not on the airline's side. I'm just providing the context here.
Right.
The family didn't really do anything wrong, but they bought their tickets not far enough in advance to guarantee them a place.
They didn't guarantee. How did they not guarantee it? I'm sorry. That's where I'm having the trouble with it.
So, in order to guarantee a spot in your plane, you need to buy your tickets at least months in advance. Otherwise, you risk being kicked off, or someone else taking your seat, or the airline simply giving your seat away. If you oversell the flight.
It honestly sounds like Delta just wanted to be a bunch of jerks about it. And they gave a half-assed response. We're gonna have our team reach out. No,
it's a canned response. It's pretty much just a stock letter.
Yeah, because I bet you, that if it was like United or something, that wouldn't have been a problem because Delta has a habit, Southwest has a habit of massively overselling. Same with American. United, not as bad.
Not as bad. They do it, but I mean, they haven't really had a problem too much.
Right. I think their last big problem was the David Dow thing, wasn't it? That they mentioned. That was United, wasn't it?
That was Delta.
Oh, that was Delta who is David Dow? Yeah. And I mean, that's the big thing that I don't understand is if somebody pays for a ticket, even if you overbook, you have to follow FAA regulations, and that to me is the sticking point on this one.
Largely it is. However, airlines get around that to an extent by simply selling the tickets to whatever person they can sell their tickets to, and by selling roughly twice as much as an airline can hold. Because they're betting, they're gambling, that a set number of passengers will not show up.
Yeah, but at the same time, this time, it wasn't somebody that didn't show up. These people were already seated, already ready to go, and they just twisted a little bit, even knowing the full count, just because that flight attendant thought that, oh, we could get one extra ticket and make one extra bit of money. This is an economy seat, too. Just seriously.
Because they deal with the family being angry and upset, but they make $400.
But at the same time, they already bought the... I get what your point. It's still...
it's not fair by any means. Again, I'm not thinking the airline side, but I'm providing context here.
Yeah. I still say what they could have incurred from this would be really bad. The PR, hopefully they learned from that.
Hopefully. Well, this was fairly recently, so within the past
Yeah,
couple
but at
years.
the same time, this is Delta we're talking about. They've been in the news for screw-ups a lot lately.
Oh yeah, they're marginally better than American, but still worse than United.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's at least our level of ones. So anyway,
moving on. This one.
That ear-piercing
that
scream.
did not. We're sorry about that. Word of warning.
So caution: the child doesn't get very loud. This is simply a 1 minute and some change. A video of a child screaming for most of an 8-hour flight.
So yeah, we'll get the microphone muted so you won't hear some backfeed, and I would suggest turn down your earphones because this may be slightly piercing. This is really what we complain about. Here we go.
That ear-piercing scream is an unruly child on a transatlantic flight to New York. The passengers describe an 8-hour flight from hell with non-stop and nerve-jangling screaming and fussing. They even covered their ears to drown out the 3-year-old. His mom was overheard telling flight attendants he has behavioral problems. Passenger Shane Townley shot the video.
She kind of looked like she was used to it. He was climbing all over the chairs. He was just screaming, would not let up. He was running up and down the aisles. There was nothing she could do.
Before the plane even took off from Germany, the child's mother could be heard asking a flight attendant to turn on the Wi-Fi so the child could be appeased with an iPad. She was also heard pleading, "Calm down, honey."
Everybody was just kind of looking at each other like, oh, this is going to be a long flight.
The passengers sure were relieved when the flight finally landed at Newark International Airport after 8 hours of screaming. The worst flight ever happened in August, but the video just came to light today. So what should you do to control an unruly child on a plane? We asked parenting expert Liz Stern.
You need to come on this plane prepared because you know that the baby is going to start crying, passengers are going to get upset, but you need as a parent to actively be prepared for this. Snacks are really important. To have snacks prepared for the baby or the child. Also a book, maybe a favorite book or a favorite toy. You can also try an iPad, download ahead of time the songs that a baby might like to soothe the baby.
Tips that could have prevented this nightmare flight.
So that was a horrific flight, or as passengers described it, a flight from hell, from Frankfurt to Newark.
Was that United?
No, that was Delta.
Really? Okay, another Delta. So, I mean, definitely that's what we're talking about. And while they suggest some of the plans, I hate to say it, that would be about the time that a passenger like myself would get up and go, okay, I'm going to politely ask you to put a pacifier in your child's mouth to stop them from screaming. I don't care if they have behavioral problems. Then you need to find another way to get them over there.
Seriously. And, I mean, their suggestion of snacks for the kid is well done. I like that. It's a good idea. You can bring food through the TSA checkpoints very easily.
We've all been there. Trap.
Apparently they auto-start. Sorry.
And apparently, I mean, you can even buy food after security, after the checkpoint before you get to the gate. So there's no excuse for that. However, she used the excuse that her kid has a behavioral problem.
Which all a behavioral problem is, having been a child who was listed as having behavioral problems, that just means you're not parenting right. I'm sorry. That's all it means.
Essentially, I mean, and the mom was described as pleading with the flight attendant to please turn on Wi-Fi or getting a blanket or something. And I'm like, you know what? I would get a blanket too, and I would smother the kid.
Well, what that means also is she didn't come prepared. She didn't have the game pre-downloaded. She wanted to have the Wi-Fi turned on so the child could do something that required Wi-Fi. You always have it pre-prepped.
And if you don't have it pre-prepped, then God have mercy on your soul.
But at that point, it's not just God have mercy on your soul. It's God have mercy on everybody, because that's entirely unfair.
It is. I mean, you're looking. Oh, so 777 carries roughly 300 passengers in economy, and roughly half of that number can hear the kid. So you're looking at angering at least 170 passengers overall.
And then that kind of turns into what's going to happen in our next one.
Oh, yes. So we'll get to that in just a second. My final thoughts on this one. This kind of goes into everything you should not do to your kid.
Yeah. At the same time, and this is for other passengers, even if you start yelling at the parent, then that's just going to make the situation worse, because then it's not just one person yelling, it's multiple people yelling, and it becomes a cacophony of ridiculousness.
And I mean, it solves nothing. I mean, honestly, getting mad at the parent or the flight attendant is not going to do anything more than getting mad at the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your best bet to deal with that is to either put earplugs in, take advantage of noise canceling headphones, do something that requires you to just zone out. You're not going to be able to sleep, so don't even bother trying.
Yeah. Well, you could sleep if you had good noise canceling headphones, and right now, Samsung, Apple, and Google all make perfectly good ones, as well as many off-brands. Yeah, Bose is a big one if you want the big ear cuffs, but even if you just have small earbuds, if you have a good set, they have a setting for noise canceling, and it works perfectly fine.
Oh yeah.
So you really have no excuse not to be able to ignore the child unless you don't come prepared. It's better to come prepared for every contingency and have it not happen.
This just makes me very glad that kids are not common in business class.
Right. But again, if the kid's scream is piercing enough, you can vouch for it because we've dealt with it, I think, at least once, where the screams were so piercing.
Yeah, in domestic first class. In domestic first class, yeah. Which is essentially like a scaled down business class. Very scaled down business class.
Yeah.
Still nice though. But the only thing separating you from economy is a curtain.
Yeah, is a curtain, and if the child is loud enough, then they have figured out somehow in their own twisted way how to use the whole thing as a sound vessel.
And those planes tend to amplify sounds. Okay, next.
Let me get the...
This is angry passenger yells at flight attendants over crying baby.
Yep, here.
What we were just talking about.
Yep. And here we go.
We've all been there, trapped on a plane with a crying baby. Most of us put on headphones and hope the baby just falls asleep. But on this Southwest flight, one passenger had a total meltdown, unleashing an expletive tirade while the passenger filming it can't believe his ears. Amber Cogliano has details.
I'm not screaming. You want me to scream?
That's the sound of a baby crying on a plane and a grown man acting like an even bigger baby. The angry passenger yells, trying to quiet the baby.
Can you lower that voice?
While flight attendants tell him to calm down. But his rant grows more explosive.
No. Let's be rational. We are in a tin can with a baby in a echo chamber, and you want to talk to me about being okay?
The tirade is unfolding on a Southwest flight from Baltimore to Orlando. Passengers say the man started screaming obscenities after the baby had been crying for about 35 minutes.
Flight attendants try to reason with the passenger.
You're yelling. So is the baby. Okay, so you're a man. Did that pay extra?
Other passengers chime in, but it just gets worse.
You and shut up.
Mark Grabowski recorded the video.
Could you believe how this was unfolding as you were watching it?
No, initially, myself and a few of the passengers tried to calm the man down. He just kind of doubled down and kept at it.
It doesn't seem like yelling would quiet a crying baby.
Yeah, it's pretty counterintuitive, right? Now we got two crying people on the flight.
The woman traveling with the angry passenger looks mortified. He's still yelling, even as passengers deplane.
This is a commercial aircraft. This gentleman is not chartering a private jet where he has the aircraft to himself and he can deem what environment he wants on board. And most certainly, if you don't want to hear any noise or perhaps a disgruntled baby, by all means, there are noise canceling headphones.
Cops greet the man at the airport and later he walks away with them, showing it doesn't pay to have a tantrum over a fussy baby.
You're yelling. So is the baby.
The man did not end up getting arrested. Southwest praised the crew for their professionalism in such challenging situation and apologized to the other passengers for experiencing such unacceptable behavior.
So that was how not to behave as a normal person to a baby in an airplane while you're at 38,000 feet traveling from point A to point B.
Baltimore to Orlando.
Yeah, in this case, Baltimore went to Orlando. In a Southwest 737-800.
So let me just remind all of you that for any of you who have seen Family Guy, and remember Brian screaming at the child to make them be quiet, it doesn't work that way. You're better off going jingle, jingle, jingle.
Seriously, if a baby sees you or experiences you yelling at them, they will just cry and yell louder because they think they're being attacked.
Yeah. Jingling your keys at them, I kid you not, actually works and gets them to start giggle. Or even stupid little peekaboo things. And the parent will look at you and go, oh, thank God.
Yes, for a couple who don't like kids, we're very good with kids.
Yeah.
Ironically enough.
Well, it's because it's easier to deal with children when you don't have to go home with them.
Like I said, when people say you hate kids, no, I don't. I love them up to the point when they go home in the day, in which case I love them even more.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. It's like dealing with kids, at least for us, on a short-term basis within reason. If we have something to fall off, to hand them off to, I would rather deal with that than have to deal with just the kids' ridiculousness.
And that kid was maybe 2 years old.
Yeah. I mean, the kid cried for about 35 minutes. Again, I can tell you why the kid probably was crying.
Pressure.
Yeah, it was pressure.
Air pressure.
Air pressure. Yeah, that's all it was. Because for any of you who have actually had an ear infection or had your ear hurt from the pressure, it is not fun. And just think if you're even more sensitive and you can't do anything about it because you don't know.
And traveling from Baltimore to Orlando, that's about a 5-hour flight. Maybe 4 if they catch the tailwind and they are really streaking there, they can make it maybe about 3.5 hours. But usually it's about a 4-hour flight.
But the fact that the man basically threw a Ken fit, dude.
Like, that's just embarrassing for an adult. I mean, you don't behave that way towards a child at all. That's ridiculous.
You don't behave that way towards anybody.
Well, I mean, I know some adults that are.
You shouldn't.
Yes.
You shouldn't behave that way no matter what. That is not okay. The baby screaming we understand because that is their only way of doing things. A child does not know in general at that age that much how to talk, and their start off is crying because they're sad for some reason.
They're sad, they're angry, they fill the diaper, whatever.
That man was at least 50 or so years old.
Oh, yeah.
He should know better.
He should, but clearly he didn't. And he's like, did the baby pay extra? And I'm like, no, the baby did not pay extra for the flight ticket. That baby didn't pay anything. The baby has no ID or no wallet.
Yeah, the parents paid for it, and they were trying to do the job. But it's not helpful if you're doing anything. At most, you could talk to the parent and be like, hey, could you try and keep your child quiet? Or, even better, I know it sounds stupid and asinine, and it is a volunteer thing, but offer to assist in some way. If you really want the child to be quiet and you really want to put in that effort, offer to assist.
Seriously, like, I mean, the most that can be done for a kid is to assist the parent.
Yeah.
Be a good person. They can even make your flight go by faster.
Yeah. We may not like kids, but that will not stop us from trying to assist in making the situation better. Because if the child goes to sleep or the child starts playing with something, it becomes nice and quiet. It solves our problems.
You really can't beat a very nice, quiet flight. I mean, that's all we can really hope for, at least for those of you flying in economy.
Well, actually, if you do it, you make it better for everybody, in fact.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm just separating the classes here.
Yeah, oh yeah. But on that note, it doesn't happen just in airplanes.
No, it happens in airports to adolescents.
And we're going to preface this. When it comes to TSA, how to describe a TSA worker?
Overweight, lazy, doesn't give up a job.
Usually underpaid, have to do the same level of monotony. They're pretty much glorified specialty security guards.
Think of Paul Blart Mall Cop times 1,000 in quantity, and you're not far off.
Yeah. And sadly, I mean, the fact that also this is about a 13-year-old boy, I'm sorry to his mother. Try and put some of the experiences of other women into this fact or any of that, because you getting treated like, your family getting treated like dogs is adorable in comparison to what some other people get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most messed up part, is that there's certain ones that are just... Okay, now to preface this. This is 6 years ago, so TSA was a little bit, how to put this politely, not as well versed in certain things as they are now.
Well, nothing really major happened 6 years ago.
Because, I mean, this would be 2017, right? Ish?
2022, 21, 2019, 18. Yeah, 2017. So
Yeah.
it would be the height of the Trump administration.
Yeah, so... But this... I mean, I would expect this more right after, like, 2002, 2003 is when I would expect this. But it also depends on the location.
God, does it ever.
Because not all TSAs are created equal.
You will not find this in some of the major airports. You will find this more often in the more southern acclimatized airports.
But we could be wrong. Let's watch it and get some details.
A mom is furious today over this TSA pat-down of her son. We were treated like dogs, she says. I am livid.
We were treated with utter disrespect, as if we were criminals.
Jennifer Williamson says the pat-down happened after TSA agents found a laptop in her 13-year-old son's carry-on bag as it went through the scanner at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. She says young Aaron suffers from a sensory processing disorder, which makes him sensitive to touch. She says she asked the TSA to search him some other way.
I believe he was patted down excessively. They went over his sensitive areas a little more than necessary, especially given that he wasn't wearing bulky clothing or anything like that.
The mom says they were detained for more than an hour and missed their flight to California as a result.
His first question to me was, I don't understand why they did this. I don't know what I did wrong.
The TSA says all approved procedures were followed. The pat-down took approximately 2 minutes and was observed by the mother and 2 police officers who were called to mitigate the concerns of the mother.
So, over here we don't have a problem with the airlines. They were not at fault at all. They weren't even involved. However, our great TSA was very much involved. And I called her in what? It was at a Dallas airport.
Which means they were flying Southwest.
No, they could fly any airline.
True, but more than likely it was Southwest. But anyway, if you notice, I don't think it was just the laptop.
No.
Because if you very specifically notice, you notice the white cloth he had. It wasn't just the x-ray machine that popped. It probably came up with some level of explosive residue. So they had to check him.
Alright, now it doesn't mean he was carrying explosives, he just means it could have been an alcohol wipe, anything else. I mean, it could have been some
type of... actually reads stupid anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, was it suspect on? Yes. But, I mean, if you follow the TSA's code of conduct for security screening, you don't really have much to be concerned about.
Well, that's why I theorized the residue, because the only time you do that level of a pat-down, as what they were showing on the video, is when they think he's carrying explosives, drugs, or something of the like. Because they were going over every single potential spot that was hidden, which means the system pinged something. Not just the laptop. That was probably the preface for them to check, but especially when you're flying out of Dallas-Fort Worth to California, they might have, again, theorized drugs.
Yeah. And, I mean, they will pull your luggage from being checked if it pops up as, like, even marijuana. I mean, that type of thing is legal to get in California and use, but if you're flying out of Texas where it's not legal...
And that was even in 2016, so I think they had just passed that law.
2017? Yeah, they may have, yeah. But even so...
Was the TSA overly vigilant? Yes. If they...
And I guarantee you, the police officers that were called, they didn't care.
Oh, no.
At all. No.
Was the mother also making a little bit of a mountain out of a molehill?
A little bit.
Sort of. Yes. I understand why she was concerned. The kid has an issue. Do I agree that they should have taken the kid into the back room? have them take off like their clothes down to their underwear and then check the clothes without them being on, yes, that would have helped his sensory issues. The kid was already in his bare feet. He had on shorts and a t-shirt.
Right, and it would have been out of the public eye. I mean, he probably would have felt violated still, but I mean, it would have been away from everyone, and it would have been private.
Yeah, he could have taken off his clothes in a private area. They could have checked the clothes, read them all, checked them all, and then handed them back to him, just like a doctor's office. Seriously.
I mean, they're not asking him to turn his head and cough.
Yeah, it's like they're also giving him privacy and everything like that. So TSA went a little excessive. They should not have stretched out for that long. But again, it feels like we don't have all the information.
It does, and I mean, okay, the kid has sensory issues. Who doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, how many times when you went through TSA did they basically touch parts of your body that you did not feel that they should have their hands on, checking for hidden items?
Oh, as a trans woman, I can tell you before I had any surgery whatsoever, yeah, tons of violations here, yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to get to test out that fact to see if they're going to do it now. Because I will honestly bet you money that they will. They will check around your breast and crotch area because of the simple fact of there could potentially be things there.
Yeah, I mean, God, when I went to Canada the first time, I had to be privately screened. They took me in the back room and they felt up my crotch and my inner thighs. I felt it was a violation, but I didn't say anything.
Well,
it wouldn't have done me good.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that there's a violation after the fact, but when it comes down to it at the very beginning, you have to weigh it off by this. Do you want to get on your flight, or do you not?
Are your 15 minutes of fame on CNN more important than getting on your plane and getting to your destination?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the big thing. It's the same thing of dealing with a screaming kid on a plane. Is your 15 minutes of fame, whatever you want to call it, worth
pain leads to fame,
yelling and screaming at that kid and embarrassing yourself?
Now, the answer should be no, but everyone has different priorities.
And some people may have just had a bad day. It's the same thing as road rage.
No, you may have just finished a day at work and gotten very stressful on the road to the airport and realized you missed something at home, went back to your house and got the thing you were missing, packed it, threw it in your car, literally threw it in your car, ran to the airport, parked your car for an outrageous fee because for some reason you insist on driving to the airport like a moron, and then getting to the airport and checking in, and then this happens. Okay, fine, that happens. I mean, you chose to be a dumbass, so whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, that was our last video.
So we have a bit of a shorter one today.
Actually, we're about 43 minutes, so
that's not too bad. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. Next week or so, I plan to have a Q&A. Please ask me questions. Please don't give me the same line of, I can't find anywhere to ask you. You can ask me here. You can find my Facebook page. You can find my Facebook profile. You can find my Twitter. I refuse to call it X, I'm sorry. You can find my Patreon. And while you're there, feel free to join.
If nobody does ask any questions, we're going to collect some of the most obvious questions, but we will also make sure that if anybody does ask questions, you will get your name shouted out on whichever handle you decide to put it in, or if it's on Facebook, your actual name. So if
name, screen name, handle, whatever. Yeah.
If you want to be mentioned and have listed the question was very good, please let us know.
You can also shoot me messages on or comments, requests, whatever on Instagram. I'm there too. At Brook in the Air, pretty simple. I'm really easy to find, guys. You can even send me comments on my blogs on my official sites on Squarespace. I believe it's brookintheairtravel.squarespace.com.
Links will all be below, so you can find it.
They're also posted on my YouTube page over the About section. can't really miss it. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.
Don't forget to mention how close you are, how many subscribers you have.
Oh yes, I am at 260 subscribers, and I need 350 subscribers to meet my goal. Upon meeting my goal, active subscribers will be entered into a contest to win. What do you win? Good question. You will win a trip with me on a 5-star airline. Time and date to be decided, obviously. But that will be coming up, and all you need to do is subscribe to my channel.
And the better chances of that happening also as well will be if you get your friends to subscribe and you donate to our Patreon, because the more money we have to go on said fights, the better chance we have of getting...
And the better chance you have of winning. I do aim on this contest being as unbiased as possible and completely random, but only active subscribers will be entered to win. I will see you in there. Bye-bye.